The Amazing Digital Circus. The show that arguably is what kicked off Glitch's company as a whole just ended. As someone who's been a fan since episode 1 dropped, I'll say the ending was disappointing to say the least. But the greater tragedy is the show's fall from what it could have been. From writing flaws to cast drama, the show has really taken a turn for the worse. I'm going to give my opinion on the show as a whole, go over the good and the bad, and offer what I think could have been changed to make it better. You all know the drill. This is my opinion. You're allowed to disagree. Don't dox me. With that being said, let's get into... I want to start with this because it's something that Gooseworx actually did an amazing job with. Each design tells more to the story of each character and reflects the problems they deal with. Pomni is the main character, an anxious little clown or jester that throughout the first few episodes is babied for being new to the circus. Her being a clown makes sense because she wants to be taken seriously but isn't. Her color scheme also matches a motif used in the show for leaving and staying in the circus. Jax, who is the real main character, is a bunny, which is usually seen as being soft and innocent. Jax, however, struggles with his masculinity and falls into the stereotypical male asshole to cope with his trauma and mask who he really is. Ragatha is someone who cares about others deeply and wants everyone to be happy. She gets the body of a doll, something that makes people happy and is comforting. She also gets walked on throughout the entire show, yet pushes through as if her only purpose is to make others happy and not bother them with her own problems, acting almost as if she doesn't have any at all. Kinger is the oldest and has been here the longest. While in the light, he is very disoriented and forgetful. However, after some time in the dark, he will temporarily regain a more aware and conscious state. I feel like it's clear that he's an allegory for dementia or Alzheimer's. Him being a chess piece makes sense with him being older and wiser than the rest of the cast. Zubul is my favorite character in the show, and I'm sad that they didn't get more attention. Zubul suffers from body dysmorphia and is a customizable toy, and can exchange any parts they want, but none of them seem to fit. This, in my opinion, is a great way to show body dysmorphia, and I really wish that they got more screen time. Gangle's design represents depression. More specifically, I would say high-functioning autistic depression, but it could work fine either way. She has 2 masks to show states of masking her depression. Her happy mask often breaks quickly due to Jax's abusive nature, revealing a sad mask underneath. I have no idea why Caine looks like that. I think it's just supposed to be interesting. I also want to point out that I often hear people say that it's a kid's show because the designs look childish or something. Adult shows should be allowed to have interesting and colorful characters. It usually gives the audience more subliminal messaging on who the characters actually are.
Hey, Pomni! Guess what?
Okay, for a quick rundown, a bunch of people put on some sort of headset and are now trapped in this video game-like world run by an AI named Caine, who forces them to go on adventures every day. Our main character, Pomni, shows up and has to quickly adjust to this new world she's now trapped in. While just on her first day, one of the members, Kaufmo, abstracts, which is basically death and happens when one gives into despair. Eventually, Caine takes care of the problem, and the episode ends with Pomni still questioning everything. I won't be doing a breakdown of every episode, but I wanted to give a pilot breakdown to set a baseline. But to be honest, episode 1 had a completely different feel from how the rest of the show felt. Yes, I know it's a pilot, so it's going to be a little different, but is it really? It acts more like an episode 1 than a real pilot. Pilots are just proof that the concept of a show is a good idea to run with, and tend to have nothing to do with the main plot itself if the show is actually picked up. Not that this technically not being a pilot is really a problem, but because of this, I'm going to treat it as a full episode 1. I mean, they did upgrade it on their own anyway.
And will now be upgraded to episode 1 of the Amazing Digital Circus full series!
Episode 1 felt like the show would have more strange liminal horror. Things are scary not just because it's creepy, but also because you don't understand it. It seemed like the show was going to be fun, wacky adventures with an unsettling undertone, which did actually continue with this theme.
Welcome back, my meowing milkmaids!
This is the show's peak, in my opinion. Episode 2 focuses on the dread of being trapped in this digital world. In episode 3, we see Pomni get singled out with Kinger, and we learn more about him as a character, and that he will serve a sort of father-like role to everyone else in the cast. It shows his grief for his wife, who had abstracted earlier in the story. It shows us that despite him being crazy most of the time, he's still pulling through. Episode 4 singles out Gangle, giving us a great focus on her masking problem. It also seemed to give her a lot of progress towards accepting herself and who she wants to be. Now at this point, you're assuming that you've got the rhythm down. Each episode will focus on a character until the finale, at which point the characters will have all gone through growth or suffered the consequences of refusing to change. And this was actually confirmed by Goose on Twitter, stating that each character will get a spotlight episode. As you can see, episode 3 was supposed to focus on both Kinger and Zubul, but out of the 25-minute episode, 4 minutes and 21 seconds of screen time was given to Zubul, with only 2 minutes and 55 seconds being focused on their character development, while the rest of the episode was about Kinger. Plus, half of Zubul's time is taken up by Caine and what he is going through. After this, Zubul gets no more screen time dedicated to their development, and is even seen in a later episode coaching Gangle through self-hate.
You have to choose to love yourself, even if it doesn't make sense. It's not natural, it's intentional.
Have you ever had to make that choice?
Huh?
Sorry, I mean, of course not. You're Zubul.
So I guess all of their actual growth happened off screen. Okay, episode 5 was supposed to be about Ragatha. Before I reread the tweet about the order, I was thinking that episode 6 was going to be the Ragatha one. She got that whole therapy scene with Kinger. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just go to... I don't think episode 5 was really that bad. We got a lot of good info on the characters' lives in the bar scene, some backstory on Jax and Ribbit, a look into some hobbies the characters have, and it got revealed that Caine has more power than he's letting on.
Give me a whiskey sour, but hold the egg white, since I'm a vegan. What? I hate this! How is this even possible? I thought Caine couldn't...
However, like I said earlier, this episode was supposed to be about Ragatha, which, aside from her little crash out at Jax, she really didn't get much this episode. And, as usual, Jax got more attention than anyone else. Even so, I thought it was good character development for Jax, showing that he tries to push others away to avoid dealing with his problems, and not to seem weak for having them. He's starting to form a bond with Pomni like the one that he had with Ribbit, and because of that, he's starting to let his guard down. And then we get an intermission. It really looked like there was going to be so much foreshadowing during this part. I saw so many theories on what everything could mean. Like the bowling balls mean escape from the circus, the cake is abstraction, and Kinger's part means he'll stay in the circus or something. But no, it meant nothing. I also saw a lot of speculation in this episode about Jax potentially being an SA victim. There's a scene where he can't find his tail, thinking he had one the whole time. There's symbolism with bunnies without tails as SA victims. There's also the detail that he's scared of corn, which is the most common substitute for the adult videos industry. And that would also line up with the theory. I'm not saying either of these theories should have been canon, but there's a lot of missed opportunity to use these things to symbolize and foreshadow stuff. But alas, none of this was important. None of it was explained, expanded upon, or even brought up again. I just wish Goose would actually use the content in her show.
You are my playthings.
Before I get into the Jax crash out, I want to touch on Ragatha's scene with Kinger. I love how Kinger plays such a good father role to the cast. She would have gotten more with Jax. And I think the conversation they had was meaningful, especially because it's the only spotlight Ragatha will get for the rest of the show. I do feel like Goose relies too heavily on therapy talks to convey character growth. Characters need more than just to talk to better themselves. They have to implement real change, and that part of a character's growth is really important to show. Ignoring all the other cringe moments in this episode, let's talk about the argument between Jax and Pomni. Generally, I think this argument was fine. When I first watched it, and this is gonna sound crazy, I liked the scene. You know, the cringe part. But not for the reason you'd think. I want you to think about the last time you got really emotional in an argument. You probably said some really cringe things, especially if you had been repressing emotions or if you were just angry. To me, this scene really showed how much of a loser Jax really is. He desperately wants to be this cool, funny character, but in reality, he is human, just like everyone else. But they really didn't do anything with this either, and based off of how Gooseworx is and what happens in the finale, I think this wasn't supposed to be cringe, or at least not as much as it was, which kinda undoes everything I said earlier. That being said, I hate this scene now. Alrighty, episode 7. Yeah, no title card, the crash out isn't over. Jax decides no one understands him, and hides away alone, causing him to almost give in to the voices. Caine fakes them out with an escape adventure, and gives them the choice to stay in the circus, or leave the game. Jax freaks out and has flashbacks to his life, and we can see that something that he holds guilt over was happening before he got into the circus. So he chooses to press the red button and keep them in the game. Now, Jax mentioned shortly afterwards that Caine got into his head, and that he made him.
You made me... You got in my head. You just lie about everything, don't you? You can mess with our minds too, can't you? The stupid sauce, the vegan thing, God knows what else.
Our name?
But here, Caine says that he only adds temporary modifiers, so we really can't be sure if he had full control of Jax, or if he influenced him to not want to leave and face what he had done. Keep this in mind, we will need it later. For the final part, I will be combining episodes 8 and 9 for the finale, because the final episode takes place immediately after episode 8, and both episodes were put together for the theater release. But before we get into that, I want to take the chance to acknowledge the artists involved. The soundtrack is great and does a really good job with common themes and motifs. As a soundtrack enjoyer, a lot of the songs are in my playlist. The animation is great. I've followed some of the animators on TikTok and YouTube as they showed their progression and the behind the scenes of how they made their shots. They had to get really creative at times to solve certain problems. And as an animator myself, I have to give props to them because I'm about to get very critical of these last 2 episodes. So, last and certainly least,
congratulations, all of my friends.
After whatever the fuck this was, we cut to the cast recovering from Caine's false exit. Zooble starts pressing Jax for pushing the red button, because if it had been real, it would have been their only way out. Jax says it doesn't matter, because it wasn't real, and Gangle agrees. And here's where it really starts. The babying of Jax, and the excusing of all of his wrongdoing. Because Pomni hits us with this bullshit line.
She's right. We've all done bad things. But we're also all we've got.
No, I refuse to accept that everyone, except Zooble, is okay with brushing this off. They had no way of knowing if that adventure was real or not. Jax did guess that it would be fake at the start, but he didn't have proof. None of them did. They had way more of a reason to think that it was real than to not. I can't believe that this was excused by almost the whole cast. Even Zooble somewhat sympathizes for Jax at the end of the conversation. Cut to Caine in his office, talking with Bubble about why he isn't appreciated enough, and Bubble starts antagonizing him, something we've never seen him do before. This leads me to believe that Bubble may have been planting lots of bad thoughts into Caine's mind whenever they're alone, but we don't know for sure. To be honest, it's the only way Caine's crash jump makes any sense, because I feel like it happens too fast. There isn't enough build-up for the audience to really understand his anger. For this scene to hit better, we should have got more private conversations with Bubble, or seen Caine get more and more angry at the cast for not liking his adventures, instead of just responding with shock. We get a catchy number about how Caine is the one in charge, and then the torture starts. For days, they are tortured and forced to go on very taxing adventures, but we don't really get to see any of these, and I really wish we did. If the show could have been longer or structured differently, it would have been interesting to see new adventures that took a more mature route. During a short break from the chaos, Kinger reveals how they have control over the circus, but that it's much harder to control for them compared to Caine. They decide to distract Caine while Kinger either recodes him or temporarily puts him to sleep so that they can figure out how. They end up picking the wrong dialogue tree because Caine loses his shit and ramps up the torture and makes it personal. This part was really good and intense. I loved how each character's suffering directly targeted their insecurities. Unfortunately, Zooble's was kind of weak sauce compared to the others because it wasn't really painful, and since they apparently already solved their body dysmorphia problems, the emotional aspect didn't really hit either. If Goose wanted to show that Zooble was still struggling and knows how to give the advice but not take it, then she would've. The torture continues until Kinger accidentally deletes a part of the code, and it seems like Bubble messed him up. This kills Caine, leaving the circus in ruin. Oh, look, they can swear now.
Holy shit.
We start episode 9 with Jax crashing out, yet again, at Kinger for killing Caine. Naturally, the others defend Kinger because he said it was an accident. Jax doesn't take kindly to this, saying,
Are we all just supposed to forgive this? This guy messed up in the worst possible way he could. Now, we have nothing. He gets to mess up like this and everyone takes his side?
Reminds me of something. King reveals that they are just brain scans and that they can't ever leave.
Brain scans. I saw a folder full of them when I was in Caine's code. So, I guess Caine found a way to get them working.
That means...
I know what it means.
Congratulations, Zoo!
And I just want to say, for how much they gassed up the ending and bragged about how no one would guess how it ends, for it to just be the Soma ending, the most popular theory on how the show would end. Anyway, they have a kind of tame reaction to discovering this, given what it actually entails, especially considering they just lost Caine and don't know what will happen to them or their world because of that. Pomni did say just an episode ago that they should abandon any idea of leaving, and except for Zooble, no one really seemed to care that much. We then get a montage of them getting over it. Are we so for real right now? The most devastating news in the show, and we get a montage of them recovering right after receiving it? And then Jax dies off screen with no build-up in the episode? Only thing to celebrate so far, I guess. Two things that the story had been building up the whole time. How and or will they get out? And will Jax abstract? Casually skipped over at the very beginning of the finale. Now, I love this line from Gangle so much.
Hey, this isn't your fault.
Why can't I cry for him?
Like it or not, Jax is an abuser, and he has targeted Gangle the most with his abuse. I was so excited to see how Gangle would process the death of her abuser. Lots of complicated emotions and feelings. Oh, they brush over it and she cries about it later. Of course they do. Did anyone else feel like Ragatha wasn't herself this episode? She acted so differently, and her interactions with Pomni were so weird. It felt like they were trying to push a romantic narrative between them. They got way closer and really touchy. I genuinely think this was just to feed the popular ship between the two characters, because narratively it makes no sense.
And despite all that's happened, I still consider you my closest friend.
They hardly interacted throughout the whole show, and now they're acting like this? Unless they had some real bonding time that we didn't get to see during that montage earlier, this comes out of nowhere. If they wanted Pomni and Ragatha to get closer, or even potentially have a romantic dynamic between the two of them, they needed to show us that. We need to see the progression of these kind of things.
How are you holding up?
Doesn't that hurt?
I've been through worse.
Thank you for doing this.
Pomni goes to find and take care of Jax's abstracted form, and through a hug in the dark, she enters his mind. There was no foreshadowing that this could even happen. And yes, that is important, because Kinger had a similar interaction with his wife when she abstracted. Shouldn't it have happened then too? Did it? We don't find out. But I digress. Let's talk about what's in Jax's mind, because it's a lot. Pomni sees a bunch of doors showing how Jax would react if different cast members had abstracted before him. Some of the doors are locked, which I assume are for Ribbit and Kaufmo and or Pomni.
Jax? I just want you to know that if you need anything, or if you need to talk to anybody, I'm here for you. I know you need it, and I'm the only person who can help you. You need me. I can fix you.
What? We can't die from oxygen deprivation, remember?
What the fuck is this? And Pomni just doesn't react? She sees one of her friends choking her out over the death of someone he hates and just isn't fazed? I think this might have just been a way to bait people into thinking Jax was a twist villain from the trailer, because I don't understand why this was necessary to show if it doesn't affect Pomni's view of Jax. This scene starts off really tragic. We see that Gangle has put on her mask from episode 4 to avoid grief, and we know how this affected her. She hated that mask and didn't want to wear it again, so to see her relapse like this is really heartbreaking. And then we get this disgusting part, where Jax shows up in a maid dress to make fun of Zubal's gender dysphoria, and let it be stated that the whole theater I was in erupted in laughter upon seeing this. And then he says this.
I hate you.
What? Don't act like you don't like it, sweet cheeks. Meet me in my room after the funeral. Don't be late.
What are you all doing? Get back to work!
Jax is an abuser and is now sexually harassing one of his victims while she is grieving, and this show treated it like a joke. It's not taken seriously at all. And before people come to defend this, I want to remind you that this show is actually about serious topics and real problems. So they need to treat those real problems with respect instead of turning these real things that real people go through into a shock value joke. What's even the joke here? Abusive man sexually exploits grieving victim? This one further shows that Jax doesn't take anything seriously, and I liked the gag with the sign hand for Zubul, but this should have been used as a joke elsewhere. It really felt so out of place, and was too much of an atmosphere change in my opinion. Pomni then enters a room where all the Jaxes from the doors are. Haha, look, he said a slur! Isn't that so funny? Pomni enters the final door at the end of this room, where we see Jax's past. If you separate this section from the rest of how the finale turned out, it's really good. And as much as I'm not a fan of Michael Kovac, his voice acting here was phenomenal and really sold these scenes. I only wish this level of attention went to our actual main character, or at least a more deserving character. Here, we see Jax's early days in the circus. We learn through his conversation with Rivet that he grew up in a broken family. We also get confirmation that Jax is probably trans, or at least doesn't want to meet the social standards of the average man. Side note, apparently Goose revealed on Twitter that Jax is trans? Not really. Hi, this is me recording while editing. When I first wrote this, originally what I had said made sense, but now that Goose has answered more questions, I really don't know what this is supposed to be anymore. I'm genuinely so confused. It looks like maybe it was confirmed, but also not. Also, Goose doesn't even use she/her for Jax, so was it supposed to mean something else, or is it just a possible interpretation? I don't know. We don't really have a solid answer on this. I'm gonna keep editing. Bye. When Jax tells his mom, she doesn't accept him. But after degrading him, she still pulls him in for a hug. Jax handled this the way he's handled similar things throughout his time in the circus, by pushing her off him. When she hit the ground, she didn't get back up. Jax says he wasn't sure if she was just trying to make him feel bad, or if something worse happened, but that he didn't know what to do other than to run away. This led to him being homeless before he entered the circus. After realizing what he had revealed to Ribbit, he decides to push her away too. She tries to check in on him multiple times, which eventually leads to them having a big fight.
Ines, can we just stop this? I miss talking to you.
We're here. We're talking. What else do you want from me?
I just want to be friends again.
What? So you can pry into my personal life and hold it over my head?
This can't be what you want.
What? Because you know me so well. Because we're such super close best friends. So we know everything about each other.
We were great friends, and I'm
Oh
sorry
my
for
God.
crying, but I don't want this one stupid mistake to be the thing that ends all of
Here
this.
we go. Why are you still fixated on that night? Nothing happened. You keep reading into things when there's nothing there.
You're
the one using me. You're manipulating me and
This next part was very important. He almost goes to her to make amends a few times, but chooses not to. Not long after, Ribbit abstracts. We then see him continuing a similar cycle of pushing everyone out so he'll never get close to anyone again, all in the means of self-preservation. Jax's story does a great job of showing someone hiding in a shell of someone that they aren't. Jax doesn't feel comfortable being masculine, but because of his family life, feels like that part of him is wrong. This then turns into an overcompensated masculine persona, and a hatred for anything feminine. Where the show goes wrong with his character is that he is treated purely like a victim, and doesn't really get backlash for his actions. The show babies him, and excuses his terrible behavior with trauma, or just treats the bad things like a joke so it doesn't have to be taken seriously. Jax is the only truly morally bad person in the show. Caine is an AI, so he can't really be evil. He doesn't understand that some of what he does is bad, and doesn't have a moral compass to understand what bad even is. He's just doing what he's programmed to do. Jax, on the other hand, is human. The rest of the cast are normal people. They mess up sometimes, but don't really do anything all that bad. Jax is extremely violent towards many of the characters, and degrades everyone. He hurts people to cope with his own internal problems, never gets better, never once apologizes, and hasn't done a single redeemable thing. And Pomni is still choosing to sympathize. This series is excusing everything Jax has done. Yes, he admits that he's a terrible person, but no one really acts like it. He doesn't actually face consequences for what he's done. Remember, abstraction is when the person gives up, so it's not like his abstraction is his ultimatum for making the choices he's made. He just gave in to his own self-pity. Effectively, they are saying, you've done awful things, but it's okay because you have trauma. Look, it's totally okay to not redeem a character, but it needs to be shown that that's a bad thing. Like, no, don't show this guy mercy. Pomni should hate his ass. Upon seeing Jax's abstracted form again, Gangle cries and runs off. We get this super rushed scene of Zubul helping her feel better.
Having a lot of complex thoughts. still human.
This really just shows about how much Gooseworx cares about her other characters. Gangle is just as deserving of screen time as Jax, if not more so. Glitch released a trailer for a collab with Fortnite after the movie aired. Gangle only had 75 words throughout the whole movie, and if you exclude the part that's in Jax's mind, she only has 18. She had 45 words in the Fortnite trailer.
Don't turn on the light, Bart.
Yes, I added a whole title card for this, because I have a lot to say. So, Caine is revived. Yes, revived.
They could kill me. They already did.
They just don't explain this. If he had some sort of backup code to keep him from being completely deleted from the system, which would make sense, then they needed to show us that. Caine temporarily gains access to the internet, something that was also not explained. And look, I understand what they're trying to do here with him realizing that there's so much more to their world than he can understand. But all they show us is him looking at their social media pages. That really only gives info on them as people and not too much on the world itself. If all Caine needed was to see that there's more to them as people, why is seeing their social media pages going to be any different from how they act in the circus? They have interests and hobbies and can remember lots about their lives. Caine also has info from the brain scans.
I made a program that creates a body perfectly encapsulating their mind files, and they hate those too!
How else could he know to give Gangle drawing supplies, or Jax a feminine room? If Caine could see more from the internet than just their socials, then they should have shown that! Also, remember when Jax pressed the red button? He states that Caine got in his head, but Caine doesn't have access to their memories, because then the internet thing doesn't make any sense. If you could see their entire lives, then why would seeing the internet matter? So did he increase Jax's paranoia or something? We know Jax wasn't fully in control, so how much of this was Caine? We'll never know. Haha, yeah we will. Hi, editing me again. Gooseworx said this was just Jax avoiding responsibility as usual, but to me that doesn't really make any sense. His body language, facial expressions, and voice all say otherwise. Plus, he's only talking to Caine and having active realizations about what Caine can and can't do. So this doesn't really feel like he's trying to avoid responsibility, because he's talking to the only person who would know the truth, and then doesn't hold up this argument when confronted about it later. He just says it doesn't matter. Why would he only deflect the blame while talking to the only person that would know he's lying, and then never use that strong alibi elsewhere? While still thinking about what he just saw, Caine goes back and forth on himself, kinda like Golem, like there are two people talking, something we've never seen him do before.
But they hate me. They abandoned me. They're from a world so much bigger than mine. I'm keeping them locked in a cage. They had their fun out there. It's my turn now.
And after he removes Abel, his angry side goes away. Is this insinuating that Abel is the source of his anger? He was the chaotic one, and in the Bible story that they get their names from, Caine is jealous and hateful and kills Abel. So how is removing Abel what solves this problem for him? Who or what is Abel? Is it even the blue sphere? I don't know, he's gone now. Haha, this part. I'm just gonna show the clip.
Stand. That you're afraid. And you have no reason to trust me after all I've done. But I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I want to give you control of this place. I've learned a lot about you and your world. I understand now that keeping you under my thumb just isn't right. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you'll at least accept my offer.
Caine, you really caused a lot of hell for us. It's gonna take some time to build up any kind of trust between us again. But despite all that, it's good to have you back.
Good to have you back? Let's not forget that he personally tortured them for days. No one, and I mean no one, would act like this with their torture. I loathe this scene. What I said earlier about Caine not being morally responsible for his wrongdoing doesn't change the fact that he is effectively a human to everyone else in the cast. From the perspective of everyone else, they see him as just another person. Caine's face is going to be permanently etched into their memory whenever they experience trauma from all of that torture. Caine then shows them how their lives continued in the real world. The cast doesn't really care about this and is just totally fine with staying here.
With all that being said and done, Abby is out there, living her best life. And here, I'm just Pomni.
Then we get another montage of Caine bonding with everyone and giving them more ability to explore their interests. Fucking We Are the Amazing Digital Circus. Even with the "and Gangle went on to write her manga" stuff. This ending sucked so bad. They didn't explain anything. What is abstraction, and why does it happen? Why did Queenie abstract? What caused Cosmo to freak out over the exit and abstract? Who is Scratch, and what did he do with Kinger? There was all that stuff Stickman Abel said about them doing bad stuff. Was that just a red herring? What is CNA? Why did the cast members get their brains scanned in the first place? Was it voluntary? Why was there such a long gap between Queenie dying and Ragatha showing up? What happened to Bubble? He was somewhat connected to Caine, but was clearly against him. Caine still has the brain scans of all the people who abstracted. Why can't he just bring them back? Did he not have full control? What about literally any other character's problems aside from Jax? They were still struggling with them at the end of the show, and we didn't get much growth throughout the show because Jax took all the attention. But at least we got to see Jax in a maid outfit again. That was really funny. This show could have been so much better if the other characters got more time dedicated to their growth, and if Jax wasn't enabled in his bad behavior. The entire finale was dedicated to Jax being trans, except they didn't really confirm that, and the fact that he has trauma. Functionally, it doesn't even work as a finale, but just an episode focusing on Jax. Like I said, the big things the show was building up got casually revealed at the beginning, and then they just skipped on everyone else so that they could focus on Jax. This show really was just wasted potential. Oh, you thought I was done? I'm just gonna have these pictures up while I'm talking. Gooseworx's humor is, "I'm so edgy," and "shocking is funny." People will defend her saying it's just jokes, but these jokes are still super insensitive and hurtful. To excuse behavior like this is to excuse the problem these so-called jokes are about. Let's not forget that she's friends with Vivziepop, someone who fetishized in her show, downplayed the severity with jokes about it, had someone who had a fetish animate the assault scene, and then redeemed the pimp rapist with the power of friendship at the end of the show. I have a hard time believing that someone who makes this many of this kind of joke doesn't at least have microaggressions. It's also very reflected in her work. She has also said that Jax is her self-insert, and my little theory on this is that she made a self-insert side character, and he quickly became a fan favorite. Goose loved the praise of a character that was essentially her, and decided to make him even more like her, and then basically took over the lead role. How come we get way more time on Jax than Pomni? This is also why I think Jax got more insufferable and they started enabling his behavior, because if this is how Gooseworx really is, then why would she condemn herself? Remember how I said I'd come back to that song that played when Pomni was in Jax's mind? Well, that song was a white man's dub of a black man's song about black pride and his newborn daughter. It's such a weird song choice anyway, because the lyrics don't even line up with what they're trying to say. Not to mention the movie's official release was on Juneteenth, and because of that we've got people saying stuff like this. Oh, and look at this. They also put him on a bonnet for merch. You know, instead of the two actual POC characters on the show. There's also been a severe lack of care from Goose and Glitch about background checks regarding their voice actors. Michael Kovac and Ashley Nichols were hysterically laughing at the fact that someone in their stream chat had a username, short for negative, and carried the joke on throughout the whole stream, just because it sounded like they were saying a racial slur.
Daddy for the vote.
Versus?
Oh my god!
of people defended this because it was 7 years ago, and they gave these apologies after the drama came out. But a lot of the POC Digital Circus fans were not happy with these apologies, especially because they only apologized when people criticized them for it. Plus, if the majority of the people affected say it wasn't a good apology, it probably wasn't. Also, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know about these clips of Mr. Kovac.
Yo, the rap music, yo, love the rap music, yo, fuck the rock music, yo, fuck the rap music, yo, the weather suck, crack the guns away, are back, that is a fact that you gotta know knack, yo, yo, it's Michael Kovac Seaman, it's Michael Kovac, it's Michael Kovac, it's Michael Kovac.
Anne sighed as she sat in her room, staring at her wall. She just finished writing in her diary and had nothing to do. Life was boring in the secret annex, but it was better than the alternative. It was all right talking to Peter and Margaret, but they were both such quiet people, unlike the always active Anne. All of a sudden, a flash of light appeared in the room. Anne jumped back, stifling a scream.
My name is Goku.
My name is Anne.
I'm sorry for what just happened, but I was caught in a time portal and deposited here. My power cells will recharge soon, but until then, I'm stuck here.
Well, sir, you may stay in my room as long as you'd like.
Thank you for the invitation. I'll be sure to repay you for it soon.
I'm sorry,
No, that's quite all right. You know, you're a very beautiful girl, but
What's the matter?
I'm already married.
No!
I'm sorry.
Nothing ever goes right!
I have to go now. My power cells have recharged.
And now, Goku smiled a sad smile and disappeared in another flash, out of Anne's life forever. Anne never forgot him, though not until the end of time.
Kinger's VA said this.
Smash. Just for everyone that was recording. I figured I had to give you one.
And some people tried to cancel Ragatha and Pomni's voice actors for shipping Gangle and Jax, which is dumb, but I do think you've got to have a crazy low level of media literacy to not understand that this is an abuser and a victim, and that Gangle clearly has a romance side plot with Zubul and not Jax. So it is weird, but people got too caught up trying to take everyone down instead of focusing on the important stuff. Glitch also just released a new show called Gameoverse, starring Aaron Hansen, a renowned racist. Also, for a company that built part of its reputation on making respectful female leads, it's really interesting to see them have a show objectifying women like this. Anyway, this show sucks, and you shouldn't support Gooseworx or any of the problematic voice actors I mentioned, because that's just enabling bad behavior. We've already seen so many people defend stuff like this, and then attack the minorities affected, furthering the problem itself, but yeah, it's just jokes, and it's not real. I'm genuinely so disappointed with how this whole thing turned out. Let me be clear, I was a day one. I watched this when episode 1 was only days old. I loved this show for a long time, and bought merch. It really is a tragedy that so many people involved choose to act like this, and it's genuinely so disheartening to see so many people glaze this as peak fiction, not understanding anything, and ignoring all the problems with its creator. This show could have been so good. Its build-up was amazing. It could have appealed to so many different kinds of people, but instead, we got this. I've never done this before, and this video took forever, but thanks for watching all the way through.